Our modern calendar seems like a simple fact of life. We glance at a screen and know the date, the month, the year. This tidy grid of days feels like the natural order of things, the final word on how to track time. But what if I told you this is the simple version? Across thousands of years, human civilizations engineered calendars of breathtaking complexity, systems that wove together the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars into intricate codes governing everything from harvests to the fate of empires. By the end of this journey, you will have explored 30 ancient timekeeping systems that make our modern calendar look like a child's sketch. How did a massive stone disk become a cosmic computer? Why would a society need two separate calendars running at once? We are about to dive into the minds of ancient astronomers and priests, uncovering timekeeping machines carved in stone and calculated with mathematics so advanced it challenges our view of history. What does our own neat schedule of appointments hide about the true nature of time? To understand the scale of their ambition, we begin not with stone but with a spiritual heartbeat. The Maya viewed time not as a line but as a sacred, living force, and their primary tool for navigating its currents was the Tzolk'in. This was a 260-day sacred calendar, a cycle woven from two smaller gears. One gear had 13 numbers representing the layers of heaven. The other had 20-day names, each a glyph with its own deity and spiritual energy, like Imix the water lily or Ahau the Lord. Every single day in the Tzolk'in was a unique combination, a specific number paired with a specific name. It would take 260 distinct days, a full turn of both gears, before that exact combination repeated. This calendar governed everything from the timing of religious ceremonies to the naming of children, and even the fate of rulers, acting as a divine schedule for interacting with the gods. But the Maya were also master astronomers watching the sun, so they ran the Tzolk'in alongside a second, more familiar system, the Hub. This was a 365-day solar calendar, divided into 18 months of 20 days each, plus a short, ominous 5-day period considered to be outside of time, a dangerous interval. When you mesh these two cycles together, the Tzolk'in and the Hub, a remarkable pattern emerges. It takes a staggering 52 solar years for a specific date, like the combination of a Tzolk'in day and a Hub day, to realign and repeat. This grand cycle was known as the calendar round, and for many Mesoamerican cultures, it defined an entire era, but the Maya thought bigger, far bigger. To chronicle history on a cosmic scale, they developed the long count. This was a linear count of days from a fixed starting point in myth, August 11th, 3114 before Common Era in our calendar. It counts days in nested units like a vast cosmic odometer. A kin is 1 day, 20 kins make a unal or month, 18 unals make a ton, a solar year of 360 days. 20 tons make a katon, about 20 years, and 20 katons make a bakton, nearly 400 years. With this system, they could write a date that pinpointed a day millions of years in the past or future. The famous so-called end date of December 21, 2012, was simply the completion of a 13 bakton cycle, a reset of their great cosmic clock, not a prophecy of doom, but a testament to their vision of time as vast, cyclical, and meticulously ordered. That vision of cosmic cycles carved into a single, terrifyingly beautiful artifact finds its ultimate expression in the heart of Tenochtitlan. Unearthed beneath modern Mexico City, the Aztec sunstone is a 12-foot wide, 24-ton slab of basalt, a monumental declaration of how the universe worked. It is far more than a simple calendar. It is a cosmological map, a political manifesto, and a divine warning, all etched in stone. At its center glares the face of Tenochtitlan, the sun god, his tongue a sacrificial flint knife, demanding the nourishment of blood to keep his daily journey across the sky alive. Clutching human hearts in his claw-like hands, his visage is a stark reminder of the brutal pact that maintained cosmic order. Surrounding him are 4 square panels, representing the 4 previous suns or eras that the Aztecs believed had been destroyed before their own. Each ended in cataclysm by jaguars, wind, fire, and water, a cycle of creation and destruction that framed their own world as the 5th and fragile sun, destined one day to be annihilated by earthquakes. This central icon is framed by a mighty ring, a band of 20 intricate glyphs. These are the day signs of the Tonalpohualli, the 260-day sacred count. Just like the Mayan Tzolk'in, this was a divinatory calendar, a spiritual almanac where each day, defined by a number 1 through 13, and one of these 20 signs held specific omens. Priests used it to determine the fate of newborns, the luck of warriors, and the timing of rituals, reading the will of the gods in this endlessly turning wheel of symbols. But the stone also encodes the solar year, the Xupohualli. This was the 365-day calendar of seasons and agriculture, divided into 18 months of 20 days each. You can visualize these months as the smaller, ray-like glyphs pointing outward from the sun god. And just like the Maya, the Aztecs acknowledged the 5 leftover days, the Nemontemi. These were considered empty, unlucky days outside the normal flow of time, a period of dread when the boundaries between worlds grew thin and normal activities ceased. The true power and the true anxiety came from the interplay of these 2 great cycles. When the 260-day sacred count and the 365-day solar year ran concurrently, it took exactly 52 years for a specific combination of dates to repeat. This 52-year cycle was the Aztec century, known as the calendar round. As the end of one of these cycles approached, a profound terror gripped the empire. Would the gods allow the sun to rise again? All fires across the land were extinguished. On a sacred hill, priests performed a final, desperate ceremony, waiting for the stars to cross a certain point in the sky. If the stars aligned, a new fire was drilled into the heart of a sacrificial victim, and this flame was carried to relight every hearth in the kingdom, symbolizing the renewal of the sun's covenant for another 52 years. The sunstone, therefore, was not just a timekeeping device. It was the central cog in the ideological machine of the Aztec state, displaying the terrifying, beautiful, and blood-required logic that held their universe together, a permanent stone reminder that time itself was a sacred debt that required constant payment. This obsession with aligning human time to the heavens was not unique to the Americas. Across the world, in the Fertile Crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, another civilization was engineering a timekeeping system of astonishing precision, one that would quietly shape calendars for millennia to come. The Babylonian calendar was a masterpiece of pragmatic observation, a lunisolar system that tried to marry the inconstant moon with the steady march of the seasons. Their month began not with an arbitrary date on a page, but with a moment of collective watching. On the evening when the first thin silver crescent of the new moon was officially sighted and verified by temple astronomers, a new month was declared. This meant months could only be 29 or 30 days long, following the moon's actual cycle. But here was the fundamental problem. 12 of these lunar months add up to only about 354 days, falling short of the solar year by roughly 11 days. If left unchecked, the months would steadily drift through the seasons, with a month named for the harvest eventually occurring in the dead of winter. To solve this, the Babylonians introduced a brilliant, if bureaucratic, fix, the intercalary month. Every few years, based on meticulous observations of the sun's position and the state of the crops, the king and his council of astronomers would decree the insertion of an extra month into the year. This act, called intercalation, was a powerful administrative tool, a literal command to stop and reset time to keep the agricultural and religious festivals in their proper seasonal slots. From this meticulous system, we inherited a cornerstone of modern life, the 7-day week. The Babylonians assigned each of these days to one of the 7 celestial bodies they could see moving against the fixed stars, the sun, the moon, and the 5 visible planets. This sacred, repeating hebdomadal rhythm was later adopted by the Greeks and Romans, and its planetary names still echo in languages like English, with Saturday for Saturn, and Sunday and Monday for the sun and moon. But their genius was not just in structure, it was in prediction. Thousands of cuneiform tablets covered in precise wedge-shaped markings reveal they had identified a repeating cycle of lunar eclipses, the Saros cycle, lasting about 18 years and 11 days. They could not explain the mechanics of an eclipse, but through centuries of dutiful record-keeping, they learned to predict its likelihood with remarkable accuracy. Their calendar was not just a way to mark days, it was a living database, a testament to the belief that if one watched the sky carefully enough, with enough patience and mathematics, one could discern the orderly patterns of the gods themselves. While the Babylonians wrestled with the moon, another civilization turned its face fully to the sun. Along the banks of the life-giving Nile, the ancient Egyptians engineered a calendar of radical simplicity and profound consequence. They created one of history's first purely solar calendars, a stark 365-day year that deliberately severed its ties to the lunar cycle. Its structure was beautifully, almost mathematically clean. They divided the year into 12 months, each exactly 30 days long, but that only accounted for 360 days. The remaining 5 days were set apart, known as the epagomenal days. These were considered the birthdays of 5 major deities, including Osiris and Isis, a time outside of normal time, filled with both celebration and a touch of danger, as the boundaries between the divine and mortal worlds were believed to be thin. This civil calendar, used for administration, tax collection, and daily life, was a masterpiece of bureaucratic order, yet it contained a fascinating flaw, a deliberate imperfection that reveals their deep astronomical wisdom. They knew the true solar year was closer to 365 1/4 days, but they chose not to add a leap day. This meant their calendar began slipping against the seasons at a rate of about 1 day every 4 years. Imagine a New Year's festival that slowly journeyed through all the seasons over a long 1,460-year cycle. They called this the wandering year. They were fully aware of the drift, but their system was so entrenched in law and tradition that it remained unchanged for centuries. The reason they could tolerate this wander was because they had a far more important celestial anchor. Their true New Year was not marked by a date on this civil calendar, but by a breathtaking event in the eastern dawn sky. It was the heliacal rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the heavens. After a period of invisibility, Sirius would reappear just before sunrise, gleaming like a diamond in the morning twilight. This event, which the Egyptians called the going up of the goddess Sopdet, miraculously coincided each year with the beginning of the Nile's annual flood. The life-giving waters would swell, bringing fertile silt to the fields, and the star's appearance was the divine signal that the cycle of renewal had begun. This connection was everything. Their entire agricultural cycle, and thus their survival, was tied to this cosmic coincidence. So while their civil calendar wandered for administrative ease, their real timekeeping was written in the stars and the river. They even maintained a separate, lunar-based calendar to schedule religious festivals, meaning priests and scribes had to navigate multiple concurrent timelines. Visualize the precision of temple architecture, aligned to catch the first light of Sirius on the new year, or hieroglyphs depicting the 3 seasons, inundation, emergence, and harvest, dictated not by a page but by the sun, the star, and the sacred, predictable rise of the Nile. Their time was not an abstract grid, it was the very rhythm of life itself, measured in the slow creep of a wandering calendar and the sudden, brilliant promise of a star at dawn. That profound connection between the heavens and the harvest found another perfect expression far to the east, in a system that has never truly stopped ticking. The traditional Chinese calendar is a living relic, a lunisolar masterpiece of such intricate balance that it still dictates the dates of the Lunar New Year and the Mid-Autumn Festival for billions. Its core mechanism is a constant negotiation between two celestial rulers, the Moon and the Sun. Each month begins not with a human decree, but with an astronomical event, the precise moment of the new moon when the moon is completely dark. This creates months of either 29 or 30 days, faithfully tracking the moon's phases, but following only the moon would send the seasons adrift, just as it did for the Babylonians. The Chinese solution was both elegant and rule-based. They periodically insert an entire extra month, a leap month, to bring the lunar year back into sync with the solar cycle. The decision of where to place this 13th month is not random. It hinges on a brilliant agricultural innovation, the 24 solar terms. Imagine dividing the sun's 365-day journey around the Earth into 24 equal slices of about 15 days each. These are the solar terms, markers like spring begins, grain rain, great heat, and frost descent. They are a pure solar calendar embedded within the lunisolar one, providing a fixed framework for farmers to know exactly when to plant, irrigate, and harvest. The critical rule is this: a standard Chinese year contains 12 months, each month typically housing 2 solar terms. But if a lunar month passes without containing a center solar term, it is designated as the leap month, inserted to correct the drift. This ensures that festivals, which are lunar, still remain in their general seasonal window. Beyond this yearly dance lies a grander cycle of time, the 60-year cycle. This is formed by combining 2 sets of symbols, the 10 heavenly stems and the 12 earthly branches. The stems relate to the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, each in a yin or yang state. The branches are represented by 12 animal zodiac signs, the familiar rat, ox, tiger, and so on. By pairing one stem with one branch, you get a unique name for that year, like Jia Zai or Bing Yin. It takes 60 distinct combinations before the cycle repeats. This is not just a way to count years, it is a philosophical engine. Each year in the cycle carries specific energetic qualities based on the interplay of its assigned element and animal, influencing everything from national fortune to personal destiny. This system underpins traditional Chinese astrology and is still consulted for choosing auspicious dates for monumental life events, a wedding, the opening of a business, or breaking ground on a new home. The calendar is more than a timekeeper, it is a cosmic mirror, reflecting a universe where time flows in layered, meaningful patterns, connecting the motion of stars to the rhythm of the soil and the fate of every individual. Yet the idea of time as a layered cosmic harmony reaches perhaps its most mathematically profound expression in a tradition that has measured the ages of the universe itself. The Hindu calendar is not a single system, but a family of them, each a complex lunisolar engine refined over millennia. The most widely used civil version today is the Soccer calendar, but its gears are turned by ancient, breathtakingly precise astronomical knowledge. Here, the moon dictates the rhythm of months, while the sun anchors the passage of years, creating a constant, delicate dance of correction. But within this framework lies a deeper layer of time, broken into units far finer than a simple day. The basic building block is the Thai, a lunar day. It represents the 12-degree increase in the longitudinal angle between the sun and the moon. Since the moon's speed varies, a Thai can last anywhere from about 19 to roughly 26 of our standard hours. This means a festival might begin not at sunrise, but at the precise moment a specific Thai begins, even if that falls in the middle of the night. Then there are the nakshatras, the 27 lunar mansions. These are like fixed parking spaces along the moon's monthly path through the stars. Each nakshatra, named for a constellation or a deity, carries specific qualities and is used to determine auspicious timings for everything from weddings to long journeys. The moon's presence in a particular nakshatra at the moment of your birth is a cornerstone of Hindu astrology. This system demands phenomenal accuracy, and it was delivered by texts like the Surya Siddhanta, a monumental work of astronomy composed over 1,000 years ago. Within its verses are not simple rules of thumb, but intricate mathematical formulas for calculating the positions of planets, predicting eclipses, and determining the exact length of a solar year with a margin of error that would impress modern scientists. They understood the need for intercalation, adding an extra month, and adhic Mars, roughly every 32 months to keep the lunar and solar cycles in harmony. This is why festivals like Diwali, the Festival of Lights, or Holi, the Festival of Colors, migrate across our Gregorian calendar from year to year. Their date is not chosen, it is discovered, calculated by priests and astronomers who trace the positions of celestial bodies to find the exact Thai and nakshatra combination ordained by scripture. Time, in this view, is a sacred, pulsating fabric woven from geometry and mythology, where every moment carries a unique cosmic signature, and human life is meant to move in conscious rhythm with its infinite calculated turns. But how do you impose a single rhythm of time across an empire of mountains? The Inca faced this challenge with breathtaking ambition, engineering a calendar system that was less about abstract dates and more about the physical synchronization of an entire civilization. Theirs was a world of dualities mirrored in their timekeeping, a solar calendar for the state and a lunar calendar for the gods, both woven into the very landscape. The civic heart of their empire beat to the solar year, divided into 12 months of 30 days each, with a short period to account for the extra fraction. But this was no mere administrative chart. Each month was a direct command, a specific set of agricultural tasks and state festivals, its name reflecting the work to be done. Kapak Rami, the great festival of the emperor, marked the start of the rainy season and the initiation of noble youths. The month of Kame was for fasting and maintenance, while Hatun Pokoi was the time for planting maize. The most spectacular was Intai Rami, the festival of the sun god Intai, held at the June solstice, a massive display of sacrifice, feasting, and pageantry designed to ensure the sun's return and the fertility of the earth. This solar calendar organized labor, tribute, and loyalty across thousands of miles. To track it with celestial precision, the Inca built a remarkable stone observatory around their capital, Cusco. On the horizon surrounding the city, they erected a ring of towering stone pillars called sukanks. These were not just markers, they were giant sighting devices. From a central platform in the city, priests would watch the sunrise. Each morning, the sun would rise in a slightly different position along the ridge. On the solstices, the sun would rise directly between two specific pillars, a dramatic alignment that told the entire empire it was time for Intai Rami, or the corresponding winter festival. The equinoxes were marked when the sun rose over another designated pillar. Time was not read on a page, it was witnessed in the slow march of light across sacred geography. Alongside this public solar count, the priesthood maintained a separate, more secretive lunar calendar to schedule religious ceremonies and rituals dedicated to the moon goddess Mama Killa. Managing this dual system across the Andes with its deep valleys and isolated communities required an administrative tool as innovative as the stone pillars. They used the quipu, a complex array of knotted cords of different colors. While we know they recorded numerical data like tributes and populations, many scholars now believe certain quipus were also used to track time, logging the cycles of months, festivals, and perhaps even celestial events like eclipses. The Inca calendar was a living system, its months dictating when to plant potatoes on a terraced hillside, its pillars casting long solstice shadows over the capital, and its knotted cords holding the memory of seasons past, all working in unison to bind a sprawling empire to the undeniable clockwork of the sky. Long before pillars marked the solstice in the Andes, The very concept of formal timekeeping was being carved into clay in the dust and heat of Mesopotamia. Among the world's first cities, the Sumerians faced a practical problem of monumental scale: how to organize the labor of thousands, synchronize harvests, and schedule the gods' festivals across independent city-states like Ur and Uruk. Their solution was a lunar calendar that wove time directly into the fabric of work and worship. Months began with the first sighting of the crescent moon, and they were not given abstract numbers, but names that announced the most important task or festival of that period. One month might be called the month of barley harvest, another the month of offering sheep, or the month when the boat of heaven is seen, a likely reference to a festival for a deity. This created a year that was a rolling, poetic to-do list for the entire civilization, broadcast in its very name. This Sumerian system was a foundation stone, later adopted and refined by the Akkadians and then the Babylonians. They inherited the lunar structure but faced its inherent flaw, the 11-day gap between the lunar and solar years. To prevent the month of barley harvest from drifting into the planting season, they pioneered the systematic practice of intercalation. The king, advised by his astronomers, would periodically decree the insertion of an extra month, often just called a second month of Elul or a second month of Adar. This was not just astronomical housekeeping, it was an act of royal power, a command to pause the flow of time itself to maintain divine and agricultural order. This administrative calendar became the backbone of empire. It regulated everything: the corvée labor owed to the state for building ziggurats and canals, the precise timing for paying taxes in grain or silver, and the fixed schedule of rituals needed to appease the gods. A tablet might record that a worker was employed for the month of Kislemu and the intercalary month, showing how this inserted time was just as real for payroll as any other. From this meticulous, bureaucratic tracking of moons and seasons emerged a unit of time we still live by, the 7-day week. The Babylonians, keen astrologers, linked each day to one of the 7 celestial bodies they observed moving through the sky: the sun, the moon, and the 5 visible planets. Each day was dedicated to and named for a corresponding deity. This planetary week was a profound shift, introducing a sacred rhythm that operated independently of the moon's phases or the sun's journey, a small, repeating cycle within the larger ones. This concept would travel across continents, adopted and adapted by Greeks, Romans, and countless others. Its original divine patrons still faintly visible in names like Saturday for Saturn. To see how deeply this measured time was embedded in the Mesopotamian mind, we need only look to their stories. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, time is a central character. The hero's journey is measured in specific watches of the night during his perilous voyage to the underworld. The great flood sent by the gods lasts for 6 days and 7 nights, a duration that echoes the very weekly cycle they lived by. Even their laws were framed by time. The Code of Hammurabi, one of history's first legal documents, sets statutes of limitations and defines obligations in terms of months and years. Time was no longer just the rhythm of nature, it had become the meter of human justice, narrative, and duty, a framework invented in the world's first offices, etched in wet clay and baked hard under the relentless sun. But that same drive for celestial order could also lead to a beautiful, bewildering chaos. Ancient Greece presents us not with one calendar, but with hundreds, a fragmented mirror of its fiercely independent city-states. In Athens, Sparta, Corinth, and Thebes, time was a local affair. Each polis maintained its own lunisolar system, with unique month names and its own rules for inserting extra months to keep pace with the sun. An Athenian traveling to Sparta in what he called the month of Hecatombeon might find his hosts celebrating a completely different month, perhaps Karnaios, with its own festivals and agricultural duties. This meant that synchronizing a simple trade agreement or a military campaign across city-states required complex diplomatic conversions. a constant negotiation not just of terms but of time itself. The Athenian calendar itself was a blend of civic and religious life. Months like Paimption, named for a bean cooking festival, or Elaphebolion, named for a deer hunting festival, show how time was measured by ritual and harvest. Archons, the city's chief magistrates, had the authority to declare months as full 30 days or hollow 29 days, and to decree an intercalary month, a second Poseidion, when the seasons began to drift too far. This power was sometimes used politically to shorten or extend a magistrate's term, making the calendar a flexible tool of statecraft as much as astronomy. Yet from this patchwork of local times emerged one of the ancient world's greatest astronomical discoveries. In the 5th century before Common Era, an Athenian named Meton made a stunning observation. He realized that 19 solar years almost exactly equals 235 lunar months. This period, now called the Metonic cycle, is a near-perfect reconciliation of the sun and moon. After 19 years, the phases of the moon recur on the same solar dates. This was a monumental leap in predictive accuracy, allowing for a far more stable long-term calendar framework. While the Greek cities never fully standardized their calendars to adopt it universally, the Metonic cycle became a cornerstone of later astronomical systems, including the calculation of Easter in the Christian world. For all their political disunity, the Greeks shared a unifying temporal landmark, the Olympiad. This was a 4-year cycle centered on the Olympic Games, held in honor of Zeus at Olympia. Starting from the traditional date of 776 before Common Era, historians like Thucydides used Olympiads to date events, saying something happened in the 3rd year of the 75th Olympiad, for instance. This created a pan-Hellenic timeline, a shared heartbeat of celebration and competition that cut across the cacophony of local months. The contrast is striking. On the ground, a traveler faced a confusing jumble of local times, a testament to Greek political fragmentation. But looking up, their astronomers discerned cycles of sublime harmony, proving that even in their division, they were united by a profound desire to decode the orderly mathematics behind the seeming chaos of the heavens. This chaotic patchwork of Greek time found a strange parallel in the early days of a city destined to rule the Mediterranean. The Roman Republican calendar began not as a tool of precision, but as a rustic, almost whimsical framework for a small agricultural community. Its original version, attributed to Romulus himself, contained a year of just 10 months, totaling a mere 304 days. It started in Martius, named for the god Mars, and ended with December, whose name simply means the 10th month. The deep winter period after December was a nameless, uncounted gap, a temporal dead zone when fields lay fallow and government ceased. This clearly could not support a growing republic. So, around the 7th century before Common Era, King Numa Pompilius is said to have reformed it, adding 2 new months, Januarius and Februarius, at the end of the year, creating a 12-month lunar year of 355 days. But this was still short of the solar year by about 10 days. To correct the drift, the Romans introduced an intercalary month called Mercedonius, or Mensis Intercalaris, to be inserted after February every 2 or 3 years. The responsibility for declaring this crucial insertion fell not to astronomers, but to a small committee of elite politicians, the pontifices or high priests. This is where a system of timekeeping descended into pure political theater. The pontifices, who were often senators embroiled in the cutthroat politics of the Republic, had absolute discretion over when to add Mercedonius. They could shorten or lengthen it or omit it entirely. Why would they manipulate the calendar? The reasons were ruthlessly practical. A magistrate's term of office was defined by a calendar year. By arbitrarily adding days to a year, the pontifices could extend the term of a friendly consul, giving him more time to command armies or pass laws. Conversely, they could shorten a year to cut short the term of a political rival. Tax collection was tied to calendar dates, so extra months could be declared to squeeze out more revenue. The result was predictable chaos. By the time of Julius Caesar in the mid-1st century before Common Era, the calendar had drifted so catastrophically that the month meant for spring festivals was actually occurring in the heart of winter. The harvest festival might fall while seeds were still being planted. Farmers could not trust the printed calendar to tell them when to sow. Merchants and provincial governors had no idea when contracts truly ended or when taxes were due. The Roman calendar had become a private instrument of power for the elite, completely divorced from the natural world it was supposed to reflect. This profound dysfunction, this corruption of time itself, created a crisis that demanded a radical, permanent solution. The stage was now set for one man, backed by the absolute authority of a dictatorship, to wipe the slate clean and impose a new order from the heavens. Julius Caesar found a world where time itself was broken. Returning to Rome from his campaigns in Egypt, he encountered a calendar in utter disarray, a tool of political manipulation so divorced from reality that winter was officially labeled as autumn. To fix it, he turned not to Roman priests but to an Alexandrian astronomer named Sosigenes. This Greek scholar brought with him the accumulated wisdom of Egyptian solar observation, and together they engineered a clean, radical break from the past. The Julian reform, decreed in 46 before Common Era, was a masterpiece of simplification. It abandoned the unreliable moon entirely, locking Rome into a purely solar orbit. The new year would be 365 days long, divided into 12 months with familiar but adjusted lengths. To account for the actual solar year of roughly 365 and 1/4 days, Sosigenes introduced an elegant rule: add one extra day every 4 years. This was the birth of the leap year. The calendar year of 46 before Common Era was made monstrously long, 445 days, to reset the seasons. They called it the last year of confusion. From then on, time would march in a steady, predictable rhythm. Caesar also reshuffled the months, giving us the familiar pattern of 30 and 31-day months we largely still use, though he took a day from February to add to his own birth month, quintiles, which he modestly renamed July. Yet even this clean system suffered a human error. The priests tasked with implementing the leap year misapplied the rule, adding it every 3 years instead of 4. By the time Caesar's heir, Augustus, came to power, the drift had begun again. Augustus corrected the error, skipped several leap years to resynchronize the calendar, and following his great-uncle's example, renamed the month sextiles after himself, giving us August. The strength of the Julian calendar was its breathtaking simplicity and stability. For the first time, a citizen in Gaul and a merchant in Syria knew that the ides of March fell on the same spring day. It standardized tax collection, military campaigns, and legal contracts across an empire of millions. It was a triumph of solar precision over lunar inconsistency, of universal order over local chaos. This Roman time became Christian time, adopted by the early Church for calculating Easter and structuring the liturgical year. For over 16 centuries, from Britain to the borders of Persia, the Julian calendar provided a single, unbroken thread of measured days, a monumental achievement that bound a fractious civilization and later a continent under one unwavering celestial clock. Yet even the absolute precision of a solar calendar like Caesar's could not satisfy every culture's need to mark time. For a tradition where specific holidays carry profound historical and agricultural meaning, a purely solar count is insufficient and a purely lunar one is unmoored. The solution, refined over millennia, is the Hebrew calendar, a lunisolar system of such intricate, rule-based complexity that it operates like a celestial computer. Its primary goal is unyielding: to ensure that Passover, the festival of spring freedom, always falls in the month of Aviv, the spring. To accomplish this, the calendar engages in a constant, beautiful negotiation between the moon and the sun. Each month begins with the new moon, the Molad. Originally, this was declared by witnesses who physically sighted the first sliver of the crescent in the sky over Jerusalem. Their testimony was verified by a rabbinical court, and messengers would then be dispatched to announce the start of the month across the land. Today, the calendar is fixed by calculation, but it still follows those ancient lunar rhythms. A month can be 29 or 30 days long, known as deficient or full months, creating a fluid, moon-true cycle. But 12 of these lunar months only add up to about 354 days. If left unchecked, Passover would slowly retreat through the winter and into the fall. So, like other lunisolar systems, the Hebrew calendar adds an entire extra month, a second Adar, roughly 7 times every 19 years. This 19-year period is the Metonic cycle, a near-perfect alignment of solar and lunar time. Within that cycle, years 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 19 are designated as leap years containing 13 months. This mathematical regularity keeps the seasons firmly anchored, but the true genius and complexity of this system lies in its postponement rules, the Dihiyot. These are not astronomical corrections, but social and religious ones, fine-tuning the calendar to prevent certain holy days from falling on days considered inconvenient or contradictory. There are 4 main rules. First, if the calculated Molad, the moment of the new moon, for the month of Tishrei, which begins Rosh Hashanah, falls at noon or later, the new year is postponed by 1 day. This ensures the new moon is visible in the sky for the holiday start. Second, if the Molad falls on a Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday, Rosh Hashanah is postponed by 1 day. Why these specific days? To prevent Yom Kippur, which falls 10 days later, from occurring on a Friday or a Sunday. A Friday Yom Kippur would create an impossible situation, a day of complete fasting and rest immediately followed by the Sabbath, leaving no time to prepare. A Sunday Yom Kippur would mean the Sabbath before it, a day of rest, would be followed by another day of severe rest, which was also problematic. The third rule states that if the Molad of a common, non-leap year falls on a Tuesday at 9 hours 204 parts or later, Rosh Hashanah is postponed by 2 days. This prevents a year from being too long. Finally, if the Molad following a leap year falls on a Monday at 15 hours 589 parts or later, it is also postponed. This prevents a year from being too short. These rules mean the calendar is not simply a reflection of the sky. It is a crafted artifact designed for human and divine harmony. The result is a computational marvel. The exact length of a lunar month is defined with breathtaking precision as 29 days, 12 hours, 793 parts, with an hour divided into 1,080 parts. Using this constant, astronomers can calculate the Molad for any month thousands of years in the past or future. This calculated time, not a direct observation, now determines the dates of all the biblical festivals. Rosh Hashanah can only begin on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. Because of the postponements, a Hebrew year can be 3 different lengths, deficient at 353 days, regular at 354, or abundant at 355 days, with leap years adding an extra 30 days. This intricate dance ensures that Yom Kippur never forces a double Sabbath, that Hoshana Rabbah does not fall on a Saturday, and most importantly, that Passover always arrives with the spring. Time in this system is a sacred latticework woven from mathematical constants, social necessities, and an unwavering command to remember historical events in their proper seasonal context, a perfect fusion of cosmic order and human need. While the Hebrew calendar engineered a precise harmony between sun and moon, another tradition chose a different path, one of pure lunar devotion. The Islamic calendar, also known as the Hijri calendar, follows the moon alone without any intercalation to tether it to the solar year. Its months are defined by the synodic cycle, the time from one new moon to the next, each one beginning only when the first slender crescent is physically sighted in the evening sky. This creates 12 months that total about 354 days, roughly 11 days shorter than the solar year. The consequences of this choice are profound. Because it loses those 11 days annually, the Islamic calendar slides backward through the Gregorian seasons, completing a full cycle every 33 or so years. This means the holy month of Ramadan, a time of fasting from dawn to dusk, can fall in the long, hot days of summer or the short, cool days of winter. The Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca, which occurs in the month of Dhul al-Hijjah, likewise migrates through all the seasons over this 3-decade cycle. This wandering is not a flaw, but a feature. It embodies a theological principle, a complete submission to a divine rhythm distinct from the agricultural cycles of sun and harvest. For purely religious purposes, like determining the dates of fasting and pilgrimage, this lunar calendar is absolute. Yet Muslim civilizations from Al-Andalus to the Mughal Empire were also masters of agriculture, astronomy, and administration. They solved the practical problem by running multiple calendars concurrently. Farmers and tax collectors typically used solar or lunisolar calendars tied to the seasons, like the Persian solar Hijri calendar or various regional agricultural almanacs, to schedule planting and collect revenue based on harvest. This created a dual timekeeping reality, one for the soul and one for the soil. The act of moon sighting, however, remains a powerful communal ritual. On the 29th day of a month, observers across a region scan the western horizon after sunset. If the crescent is seen by reliable witnesses and verified by religious authorities, the new month is declared to begin at sunset. If not, the current month completes a 30th day. This reliance on physical observation rather than pre-calculated tables introduces a beautiful element of human uncertainty and local variation. Even with advanced astronomical knowledge that can predict the new moon's birth to the second, the actual visibility of that thin crescent depends on a myriad of factors: the angle of the ecliptic, atmospheric conditions, and the observer's location. Because of this, countries often disagree. Saudi Arabia might announce the start of Ramadan based on a sighting within its borders, while communities in Southeast Asia or North America, awaiting their own local confirmation, might begin a day later. This variation underscores a central truth: the Islamic calendar is not merely an abstract grid. It is a lived experience deeply woven into faith and community. It ties the passage of time directly to a monthly act of looking up, of searching the twilight for a celestial sign, connecting every believer to the same sky watched by the Prophet Muhammad over 14 centuries ago. That lunar devotion to the wandering crescent represents one philosophical extreme. But what if a culture demanded not just spiritual rhythm but solar perfection? In the 11th century, a group of Persian astronomers, led by the legendary poet and mathematician Omar Khayyam, achieved just that. They crafted the Jalali calendar, a solar system of such breathtaking accuracy that it rivals our own modern Gregorian calendar. Their goal was not to follow the moon, but to lock time to the sun with mathematical precision. The cornerstone of their system was its definition of the new year, Nowruz. This was not fixed to a specific date on a page. Instead, the year began at the exact, observed astronomical moment of the vernal equinox, when the sun crossed the celestial equator and day and night stood in perfect balance. This could occur at any second of any day, meaning Nowruz could shift by hours or even a full day from one year to the next, a true solar new beginning. To maintain this perfect alignment, they discarded the simple 4-year leap year cycle. Their leap year system was a masterpiece of observational astronomy. Instead of a rule, they used a complex, long-term calculation based on the solar year's true length. They understood that the time between two vernal equinoxes is not exactly 365 1/4 days, but slightly less. Their calendar accounted for this by distributing leap years in a 33-year cycle with 8 intercalations. Some cycles even used a more precise 282-year pattern. This meant the Jalali calendar accumulated only one day of error against the true solar year every 5,000 years, an achievement that medieval Europe would not match for centuries. This scientific brilliance was packaged in an elegantly logical structure. The year was divided into 12 months, their names drawn from ancient Zoroastrian tradition like Farvardin, Ordipesht, and Tur. The first 6 months each contained 31 days, corresponding to the period of the sun's most vigorous ascent in the sky and the longest days. The next 5 months each had 30 days. The final month, Esfand, had 29 days or 30 in a leap year. This pattern created a beautifully symmetrical rhythm that mirrored the solar cycle's own ebb and flow. Today, this calendar remains the official civil calendar in Iran and Afghanistan, known as the Solar Hijri calendar. It is more than a historical artifact, it is a living cultural anchor. Nowruz, beginning at that precise second of equinox, marks a 13-day celebration of renewal that transcends borders, connecting millions across Central Asia. Families gather around a ceremonial table, the Haft scene, awaiting the exact moment to begin their new year. The Jalali calendar stands as a testament to a golden age of science, where poetry and astronomy walked hand in hand, producing not just verses about the fleeting nature of time, but a tool to measure its passage with near-absolute fidelity. The precision of the Jalali calendar speaks to a world of advanced mathematics, but timekeeping could also be a physical object, a heavy bronze tablet buried for centuries in French soil. In 1897, workers near the village of Coligny unearthed a fragmented, mysterious artifact that would shatter old assumptions about the Celtic tribes of Gaul. This was not a weapon or a piece of jewelry, but a sophisticated calculator. The Coligny calendar is a massive bronze plaque, originally about 5 feet by 3.5 feet, covered in meticulously punched inscriptions. It is written in the Gaulish language, but using the familiar characters of the Roman alphabet and numerals, a fascinating cultural blend from a society under Roman influence but fiercely maintaining its own identity. This object is a 5-year lunisolar calendar, a complex public document meant to coordinate time across a community. Its structure is immediately captivating. The calendar is divided into 62 months spread across those 5 years, with each month broken into 2 halves, a bright half and a dark half, mirroring the waxing and waning of the moon. But the most intriguing notations are the abbreviations found beside certain days. Some are marked with the letters MAT for the Gaulish word mat meaning good. Others are marked ANM for anmat meaning not good. This is a stark, binary code for time itself. These were almost certainly markers of auspicious and inauspicious days, a guide for when to undertake important actions like beginning a journey, signing a treaty, planting a field, or conducting a religious ceremony. A day marked ANM might be for rest and reflection, while a MAT day was open for enterprise and ritual. The calendar's true engineering genius, however, lies in its intercalation scheme. Like the Babylonians and the Greeks, the Celtic timekeepers faced the problem of aligning lunar months with the solar year. Their solution was an intricate 30-year cycle, of which this 5-year tablet was one part. Within each 5-year period, they would insert 2 extra months, but these were not added haphazardly. The calendar shows a precise, repeating pattern where months of 30 days and 29 days alternate in a specific sequence, with the intercalary months placed at fixed points to keep the whole system in sync with the seasons. This required advanced observational astronomy and a deep understanding of long-term cycles. The purpose of such a public, expensive artifact sparks lively debate. Was it primarily a tool for the Druids, the priestly class, to schedule sacred ceremonies and read the divine will in the rhythm of lucky and unlucky days? Or was it a practical agricultural and civic planner for tribal leaders, coordinating markets, assemblies, and the planting and harvest times across a dispersed region? The most compelling answer is that it was both. In a society where the spiritual and the practical were inseparable, the calendar unified the community. It told farmers when to sow during an auspicious period and told priests when the heavens were aligned for a sacrifice. The Coligny calendar forces us to reconsider the so-called barbarian tribes of pre-Roman Europe. This was no primitive people. Crafting such an object required a literate elite, skilled metalworkers, and astronomers capable of thinking in 30-year cycles. It reveals a Celtic world with a formalized scientific approach to time, a civilization that measured its days not by intuition, but by a complex code stamped in enduring bronze, a tangible link to a way of thinking that sought to bring human order to the vast turning sky. The Coligny calendar shows a culture inscribing its own time, but what happens when a calendar becomes a fortress for a nation's very soul? The Armenian calendar offers a powerful answer, a fixed solar system born not just from astronomy, but from a profound need for cultural survival. Its epoch, its starting point in time, is tellingly precise: July 11th, 552 of the Common Era. This was not a mythical creation date, but the year of a pivotal event, the separation of the Armenian Church from the broader Byzantine Christian communion. This calendar was a declaration of independence, a way to mark time that was uniquely and irrevocably Armenian. Its structure is one of elegant, unwavering simplicity. It is a pure solar year of 365 days divided into 12 months, each exactly 30 days long. That leaves 5 leftover days which are gathered at the end of the year into a special period called the Avalites. These were considered supplementary days outside the normal monthly cycle, often a time for rest, remembrance, and charitable acts. But the calendar's most mathematically charming feature is its absolute predictability. In its system, the new year, called Navasad, always begins on the exact same day of the week. For a very long cycle, it was a Thursday. This means if you knew the date, you automatically knew the weekday, a level of regularity that must have been a comfort in turbulent times. This solar stability stands in stark contrast to the ancient Egyptian wandering year it was likely modeled upon. The Egyptians accepted their civil calendars drift through the seasons, but the Armenians, perhaps seeking an unshakable anchor, chose a fixed, repeating framework. While this civil calendar eventually fell out of daily administrative use, especially under centuries of foreign rule, it never died. It found a sanctuary within the Armenian Apostolic Church, where it remains vital for calculating the dates of movable feasts, those holy days that shift each year relative to the Gregorian calendar. To this day, priests consult this ancient cycle to determine the correct observance of important celebrations, weaving the old national time into the fabric of modern faith. More than a practical tool, the Armenian calendar transformed into a potent symbol. Through generations of diaspora, persecution, and struggle to preserve language and tradition, this system of months with names like Navasad, Hori, and Same became a calendar of identity. It was a quiet, constant reminder of a distinct past and an enduring community, a solar heartbeat that kept ticking through the darkest nights of history, proving that a people's time could not be erased. While some calendars serve as symbols of survival, others operate as complete parallel realities. Step into Ethiopia and you step into a different year, one where time itself is measured by an ancient, unbroken rhythm. The Ethiopian calendar currently runs about 7 to 8 years behind the Gregorian calendar. This is not a mistake or a delay, but the result of a different starting point for counting years, anchored in a tradition that traces its lineage directly back to the ancient world. Its structure is both elegantly simple and wonderfully unique. The year is divided into 13 months. 12 of these months each contain exactly 30 days. The 13th month, called Pagium, is a short period of only 5 days or 6 during a leap year. This creates a year of 365 or 366 days, a solar framework inherited from the older Coptic calendar of Egypt, which itself descends from the refined Alexandrian calendar of the Ptolemaic era. The leap year cycle follows a pattern every 4 years, much like the Julian calendar, keeping it in close sync with the tropical year. But this is far more than an historical artifact. It is the official calendar of the nation, used for everything from government documents and school schedules to business contracts and daily life. Its continuity is astonishing, a living, breathing link to the early Christian chronologies that developed in Alexandria, a thread of measured time that has never been cut. This calendar fundamentally shapes the rhythm of Ethiopian life. The famous rainy season, the Kiamt, is anticipated and understood within its monthly cycle. Most beautifully, it frames the nation's most vibrant celebrations. The new year, known as Inkutatash, arrives not in the dead of winter, but on Mescharim 1, which falls around September 11th on the Gregorian calendar. This coincides with the end of the heavy rains when the highlands erupt in a blanket of yellow daisies. Inkutatash, meaning the gift of jewels, is a festival of renewal, family gatherings, and singing children offering painted pictures. Another major festival, Meskel, occurs in the month of Mescharim and commemorates the finding of the true cross, marked by massive bonfires and colorful processions. To live by this calendar is to experience time through a distinct cultural lens, where the year begins with spring flowers, where a 13th month offers a brief, reflective pause, and where every date connects the present moment to a computational tradition over 2 millennia old. The steadfast solar rhythm of Ethiopia offers one kind of continuity, but the Buddhist world presents a different kind, a shared spiritual time that blossoms into a garden of distinct regional systems. Across the vast expanse of Asia, from the temples of Sri Lanka to the monasteries of Tibet, Buddhist calendars form a family of lunisolar traditions, each adapted to local skies but united by a common purpose: to mark the path of the Buddha. The foundational systems used in the Theravada countries like Thailand, Sri Lanka, Burma, Laos, and Cambodia share deep roots with the intricate Hindu calendars we explored earlier. They are lunisolar engines where months are defined by the moon's phases, beginning with the new moon, and years are kept in step with the sun through the periodic insertion of an extra month, an intercalary month much like the Adhik Maas. This ensures that the rainy season retreat for monks, Vasa, and the most important festival, Vesak, which commemorates the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and passing, always fall within the appropriate tropical season. The starting point for counting these years varies, but a common epoch is the Buddhist era, which many traditions date from the Buddha's parinirvana, his final passing into nirvana, calculated as 543 years before Common Era. So a year in Thailand might be marked as 2567 in the Buddhist era, placing it centuries ahead of our Gregorian count. Determining the exact date for Vesak is a feat of celestial calculation. It is not simply the full moon of a certain month, but the full moon of the lunar month of Vesaka, which must be identified through complex astronomical tables that predict the moon's position relative to specific constellations. Astrology is deeply woven into this fabric of time. Each day is influenced by a network of beliefs, from the lunar mansions or nakshatras to the position of planets, guiding everything from the most auspicious moment to begin a journey to the proper day for a child's head shaving ceremony. This creates a living calendar where time is not neutral, but charged with qualitative energy, a map for navigating both spiritual duties and daily life. Yet within this broad framework, spectacular variations arise. The Tibetan calendar stands as a magnificent hybrid, a unique synthesis of Indian, Chinese, and indigenous wisdom. It is fundamentally a lunisolar system with intricate calculations for months and leap months, but it incorporates the Chinese system of assigning each year one of 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, water, and one of 12 animal signs: the mouse, ox, tiger, and so on, in a repeating 60-year cycle. This creates years with names like the fire horse year or the earth ox year, each believed to carry distinct characteristics. The Tibetan New Year, Losar, is a movable festival, its date determined by a dedicated office of astrologers who compute the precise alignment of the moon, sun, and stars. Their almanacs, printed annually, are essential guides for millions, detailing not just holidays, but which days are favorable for healing, for business, or for avoiding conflict. Here, the calendar is more than a schedule. It is an active tool for harmonizing human activity with the perceived flow of cosmic forces, a philosophical instrument as much as a practical one. A faith's struggle for purity can be measured in the slow drift of its holy days. For the followers of Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest continuously practiced religions, timekeeping became a sacred battleground, a mathematical arena where devotion and astronomy clashed over centuries. Their original calendar, believed to date back to the Achaemenid Empire, was a model of divine symmetry. It mirrored the order of creation with 12 months, each dedicated to a specific divine principle or yasata, and each containing exactly 30 days. Every single day of the month was also named after a yasata, creating a layered spiritual map where, for example, the day of the deity Mithra might fall within the month dedicated to the cosmic law, Asha. This resulted in a year of 360 perfectly ordered days, but the solar year is not so neat. To account for the missing 5¼ days, 5 extra days were added at year's end. These were the Gatha days, named after the holy hymns of the prophet Zarathustra, a time for reflection and ritual outside the normal monthly cycle. This elegant 365-day system, however, contained no leap year. Like the ancient Egyptian calendar, it began to wander, slipping one day every 4 years against the true seasons. For a religion deeply tied to the agricultural cycle and the cosmic struggle between light and darkness, this drift was spiritually problematic. When did spring truly begin? When should Nowruz, the magnificent New Year festival celebrating renewal and light, actually be held? Reform was inevitable, but it arrived with a painful twist. In the 11th century, around the same time the Jalali calendar was being perfected in Persia, Zoroastrian communities began adopting a corrected, observational calendar. This was the Fasli, or seasonal calendar. It aligned the year with the actual vernal equinox, introduced a leap day every 4 years, and fixed Nowruz to March 21st. It was a triumph of solar accuracy, yet not all communities accepted it. In the isolation of diaspora and under foreign rule, other calculations took hold. Some groups, particularly in the Iranian cities of Yazd and Kerman, began following what became known as the Kadmi calendar. Others, notably the Parsis of India, adhered to the Shenshai calendar. Both were attempts to preserve the old wandering year, but they started from different assumed epochs, different points when they believed the drift had begun. The Kadmi calendar inserted its leap month at a different point than the Shenshai. The result was a heartbreaking schism in time. The same sacred festival could now be celebrated weeks apart by different communities of the same faith. A Parsi family in Mumbai might observe Nowruz on one date, while a Zoroastrian in Tehran celebrated it on another, and a Fasli adherent on the true equinox. This was more than a scheduling conflict, it was a fracture in shared spiritual rhythm. The months themselves, bearing beautiful names like Farvardin, the month of the guardian spirits, or Tur, the month of the star Sirius, remained constant in their meaning. Yet their place in the solar year became a marker of identity and tradition. The calendar disputes reflect a profound and ongoing tension between preserving an ancient, divinely ordained structure and correcting it to reflect observable cosmic truth. For a small, resilient community spread across the globe, maintaining their unique sense of sacred time became an act of cultural endurance, a way of holding onto a vision of cosmic order even as the heavens themselves seemed to disagree on the correct date. A world away from the sun-drenched temples, time was marked by the harsh, beautiful rhythms of the north. Reconstructing the Old Norse calendar is detective work, piecing together clues from sagas, law codes, and enigmatic runic inscriptions. It reveals a lunisolar system built for survival, where the year was cleaved not into 4 gentle seasons, but into 2 mighty halves, summer and winter. This fundamental division was called a missary, a season, and 2 of them made the full year. Summer began not on a fixed date, but when the sun's strength was deemed to have returned, a moment declared by chieftains or observed in the thaw of the land. Winter commenced with the first frosts and the fading light. Each half-year was then subdivided into lunar months, but the Vikings were keen observers. They knew 12 lunar cycles fell short of the solar year, so they periodically inserted an extra week, or even a full extra month, known as a thoratha, to correct the count and keep their months aligned with the proper tasks of the farm and the fjord. The names of these months were not abstract but vivid, practical poetry drawn directly from the world around them. You had Goy, likely a month of thawing and going, Einmanutha, the single or solitary month, and the stark Blotmanutha, the sacrifice month. Most telling was Slatamanutha, the slaughter month. This was the grim and necessary work of late autumn, when animals that could not be fed through the long winter were butchered, their meat preserved to sustain the community during the dark times. This calendar was the heartbeat of a farming and seafaring society. It told you when to sow barley when the seas were calm enough for raiding or trading, and when to gather the hay. 2 events anchored this annual cycle. The first was Yule, the great winter solstice festival. As the sun seemed to stall in its descent, a multi-day feast was held. It was a time of communal gathering, sacrifice to the gods like Odin and Frey for a fruitful year to come, drinking from ceremonial cups, and the symbolic burning of a Yule log to beckon back the light. The opposite pole of the year was the summer thing, the regional assembly. When the days were long and travel possible, free men would gather at a prescribed site to settle disputes, proclaim laws, and conduct trade. The calendar dictated this political rhythm as surely as it did the agricultural one. Evidence of their timekeeping might be physical, not just poetic. Among the grave goods in the magnificent Gokstad ship burial was a long wooden staff, notched with precise markings. Some scholars believe this could have been a portable calendar stick, a farmer's or captain's almanac, allowing him to count off the weeks and months, to know when Slatamanutha was approaching or when to ready his ship for the summer voyage. For the Norse, time was not a distant abstraction, but the deep, familiar pulse of cold and heat, of feasting and lawmaking, measured in moons and etched into the very staff in a chieftain's hand. This 260-day rhythm stands as one of history's most enduring mysteries. Why would multiple Mesoamerican civilizations, from the Maya to the Aztec, build their spiritual lives around a cycle that does not neatly match any single obvious celestial body? The sun completes its year in 365 days. The moon's phases repeat every 29 or 30. Yet this 260-day count persists, a sacred heartbeat pulsing beneath the solar calendar. Its origin is a puzzle that scholars still debate. One compelling theory points to the human body, specifically the average duration of human gestation from conception to birth, which is remarkably close to 260 days. In cultures where life, death, and rebirth were central, anchoring their primary sacred calendar to the very span of human creation would be profoundly meaningful. Another, more astronomical idea connects it to the tropical latitudes of their homeland. In regions like southern Mexico and Guatemala, the sun passes directly overhead at zenith twice a year. The interval between these zenith passages in many key ceremonial cities is roughly 260 days. Imagine the power of a day when the sun casts no shadow at noon, a moment of perfect alignment between heaven and earth, and then counting the days until that divine event happens again. A third possibility is agricultural, the typical cycle from planting maize to its harvest. Yet the true genius of the cycle is not necessarily its origin, but its application. This was not a farmer's almanac for seasons, it was a diviner's handbook for fate. Each of the 260 days was a unique fusion, a number from 1 to 13 paired with one of 20-day signs, each sign a glyph representing a force of nature or a deity like wind, lizard, or eagle. This created an endless rotating matrix of omens. A priest or tonalpauqui in Aztec tradition would consult this living almanac to read the fortune of a newborn, determining their name and likely path in life based on the day's energy. The same system dictated the luck of a proposed marriage, the outcome of a business venture, or the most auspicious day to launch a military campaign. Going to war on a day ruled by the sign of the rabbit, associated with intoxication and confusion, would be seen as courting disaster, while a day under the sign of the flint, sharp and decisive, promised victory. This made the 260-day cycle a powerful tool of social and political control, weaving a sacred logic into every decision. It created a parallel dimension of time, a spiritual schedule that operated independently of the solar year's march of seasons. While the sun told you when to plant your corn, the sacred almanac told you how to live within those seasons, which moments were infused with grace and which were fraught with peril. It represents a purely human, yet deeply spiritual, attempt to impose a meaningful, predictable order on the chaotic flow of life itself, finding a divine pattern not just in the stars above, but in the very rhythm of existence on Earth. That 260-day rhythm was a sacred heartbeat, but the Maya also built a skeleton for eternity. Their long count was a monumental linear count, a way to inscribe history and prophecy onto a canvas of time so vast it dwarfs our own historical imagination. Its basic unit was the kin, a single day, but the Maya thought in grand nested cycles. 20 kins made a yuanal, roughly a month. 18 yuanals made a ton, a 360-day period close to our solar year. Then the scale explodes. 20 tons formed a katon, about 20 years, a generation, and 20 katons formed a bakton, a cycle of nearly 400 years. A date in the long count reads like a cosmic address, listing the number of baktons, katons, tons, yuanals, and kins that had passed since the 0 point of their current world. A date we correlate to August 11th, 3114 before Common Era. This system allowed them to pinpoint any day across millions of years with absolute precision. It was history written in mathematics, a declaration that time was not a vague procession, but a quantifiable, recordable journey. The famous turning point that sparked global fascination, December 21, 2012, was simply the completion of a 13-bakton cycle. In the long count, that date was written as 13.0.0.0.0, the moment the great odometer of baktons rolled over. Modern pop culture spun this as a prophecy of apocalypse, but the Maya themselves left no records predicting doom. For them, it was far more profound, the end of a grand epoch and the simultaneous dawn of a new one. It was a cosmic renewal, a transition akin to the changing of a century or a millennium, but on a scale that stretched across over 5,125 of our years. This philosophy of epochal time finds a dark mirror in the Aztec vision of creation. They believed in 5 successive suns or world ages, each ruled by a different deity and each ultimately destroyed by a specific cataclysm. The first sun, Nahui Oslotl, was devoured by jaguars. The second, Nahui Ahekatl, was swept away by a great wind. The third, Nahui Quiahuatl, was consumed by a rain of fire. The fourth, Nahui Atl, was drowned in a global flood. We live now in the fifth sun, Nahui Olan, the sun of movement, destined to be destroyed by earthquakes. Each age was linear, a unique chapter in a cosmic story with a definitive beginning and a violent end. The Aztec sun stone is a permanent stone sermon of this belief, its central face the fifth sun, surrounded by the symbols of the 4 previous vanquished eras. Both systems conceptualized time not as a simple, repeating circle, but as a series of linear ascents. Each great cycle, whether a Maya bakton or an Aztec sun, was a distinct epoch with its own character and its own inevitable conclusion, followed not by a return to the start, but by the birth of something fundamentally new. Time moved forward in immense, irrevocable strides, and humanity's role was to navigate these colossal transitions, to perform the rituals and sacrifices necessary to sustain the current age and perhaps soften the birth pangs of the next. These vast cycles of time were not just calculated, they were carved into the very bones of the earth. For ancient architects, a calendar was more than a papyrus scroll or a set of priestly calculations. It was a mountain sculpted, a stone precisely placed, a temple aligned to catch a single beam of light on one specific day of the year. They built permanent celestial clocks, turning their most sacred landscapes into monumental, immovable timekeeping machines. In the windswept plains of southern England, Stonehenge stands as a primordial example. Its massive sarsen stones are arranged in a circle with a central horseshoe of trilithons, those iconic structures of two uprights capped by a lintel. The entire monument is oriented on a northeast-southwest axis. If you stand at the center of the circle on the morning of the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, you will witness the sun rise directly over the heel stone, a solitary slab set outside the main circle. That first sliver of dawn piercing the gap between the great uprights would have been a dramatic communal confirmation that the sun had reached its peak and would now begin its slow retreat toward winter. This was not an accident, it was an alignment achieved through generations of labor, a way to root the solar cycle into the landscape itself. Across the Atlantic, in the arid canyons of the American Southwest, another civilization engineered a more delicate but no less precise solar marker. At Choco Canyon in New Mexico, the ancestral Pueblones constructed a complex of great houses and kivas. On a high mesa overlooking the canyon, they built a unique structure now called the Sun Dagger Site. Here, 3 large stone slabs lean against a cliff face. On the rock wall behind them, they carved a spiral petroglyph. For most of the year, shadows play across the rock in shifting patterns. But on the summer solstice, a slender dagger of sunlight slices directly through the center of the spiral. At the winter solstice, 2 perfect daggers of light bracket the spiral on either side. And on the spring and autumn equinoxes, a single shaft of light bisects a smaller carved spiral nearby. This was a breathtakingly elegant calendar, using the movement of light and shadow to mark the pivotal turning points of the year with silent, solar accuracy, a secret code written in sunlight for the community below. The pharaohs of Egypt sought to harness that same sunlight for a purpose both political and divine. At the great temple of Abu Simbel, Ramses II had his likeness carved 4 times, colossal statues seated at the entrance. The temple was engineered with astonishing precision, cut deep into a sandstone cliff. For most of the year, the inner sanctum, housing statues of Ramses and 3 major gods, lies in perpetual darkness. But on 2 days, traditionally believed to be the king's birthday and his coronation day, the rising sun would penetrate the long, straight hallway, travel over 180 feet into the mountain, and illuminate the faces of the statues. Only the statue of Ptah, the god of darkness, remained forever in shadow. This was solar theater of the highest order. It demonstrated the pharaoh's intimate connection to the sun god Ra, literally bathing him in divine light on the most important days of his personal reign, proving his rule was woven into the fabric of the cosmos. The Maya, masters of celestial mathematics, also built observatories to watch the sky. At Chichen Itza, the structure called El Caracol, meaning the snail for its spiral interior staircase, is a sophisticated astronomical platform. Its narrow, slit-like windows are not randomly placed. Archaeoastronomers have found that one window aligns with the northernmost setting of Venus, the planet deeply associated with the god Kukulkan. Another aligns with the summer solstice sunset. The building itself is offset from the main ceremonial plaza, angled precisely to track these complex planetary and solar movements. It functioned as a permanent observatory, allowing priests to monitor the cycles of Venus, which they saw as a dangerous, warlike deity, and to predict its appearances with the precision needed for their sacred calendar. High in the Andes, the Inca crafted a more intimate stone connection to the sun. At Machu Picchu, among the breathtaking terraces and temples, sits the Intihuatana stone. Its name translates roughly to the hitching post of the sun. This is a single piece of granite carved from the bedrock of the mountain peak and sculpted into a complex multi-angled pillar. On the equinoxes, the sun stands almost directly overhead at noon, casting no shadow at all. On other days, the shadow cast by the Intihuatana moves in a precise, predictable arc across its carved surface and the surrounding platform. It is believed priests used these shadows not only to mark the solstices and equinoxes, but to determine the optimal times for planting and harvesting across the empire's varied altitudes. This was not just a sundial, it was a sacred instrument, a stone anchor meant to literally tie the sun to the earth, to prevent it from wandering away and leaving the world in permanent darkness. Each of these structures represents a monumental investment of labor, faith, and intellect. They are calendars you cannot hold in your hand but must walk through, calendars that demand your presence at a specific place at a specific moment to witness their truth. They transformed abstract celestial cycles into a physical, communal experience, embedding the measure of time directly into the sacred geography of the world. The most profound puzzle faced by every civilization watching the sky was a simple mismatch. The moon's cycle and the sun's year refused to line up in a neat, whole number. This fundamental discord, the problem of intercalation, forced ancient astronomers to become master engineers of time itself, and their varied solutions reveal the character of their cultures. The Babylonians took a practical, empirical approach. Their priests and astronomers would watch the sun's progress and the state of the barley fields. When they saw the seasons beginning to drift too far from their lunar months, they would petition the king to declare an extra month, a second Adaru, for instance. This was a top-down decree, an act of state power to pause and reset the calendar based on direct observation. It was effective, but it relied on constant vigilance and centralized authority. The Greeks, in their search for underlying harmony, discovered a mathematical constant. The astronomer Meton calculated that 19 solar years almost exactly equals 235 lunar months. This metonic cycle meant that after 19 years, the phases of the moon would recur on the same solar dates. It was a predictive masterpiece offering a long-term, elegant framework for synchronization, though the politically fractured Greek city-states rarely applied it uniformly. For the Romans, intercalation became a weapon. The power to insert the extra month, Mercedonius, lay with the pontifices, high priests who were also senators. They could lengthen a year to extend a friendly consul's term or shorten it to cut short a rival's power. Time was not aligned to the heavens but to the Senate floor, leading to the notorious chaos Julius Caesar inherited. In stark contrast, the Hebrew calendar developed a set of rigid, computational postponement rules, the Dihiyot. These rules, based on the precise moment of the new moon and the day of the week, could delay the new year to prevent Yom Kippur from falling next to a Sabbath. Here, intercalation was not an observation or a political tool, but a pre-calculated, rule-based system designed for social and religious harmony, a calendar that operated like a sacred algorithm. Then there were the Persians, who sought not just correction but perfection. Their Jalali calendar, crafted by Omar Khayyam and his colleagues, tied the new year to the exact, observed astronomical moment of the vernal equinox. Their leap years were not based on a simple 4-year rule, but on a complex long-term cycle that minimized error over millennia. For them, intercalation was an act of pure astronomical precision. The stakes of getting this wrong were not academic. If your calendar drifted, your spring festival of renewal might arrive in the dead of winter. Farmers, trusting the named months, would plant seeds at the wrong time and face famine. Taxes due at the harvest might be demanded when the fields were barren. Religious rituals meant to coax the gods for rain might be performed during a drought caused by the calendar's error, shaking faith in the entire cosmic order. This was not bookkeeping, it was survival. The relentless need to solve intercalation is what drove the great leaps in ancient astronomy and mathematics. It demanded meticulous record-keeping over generations, leading to the discovery of cycles like the Saros for eclipses. It spurred the invention of complex arithmetic and geometric models to predict celestial motions. Crafting a calendar was the ultimate high-stakes science, a direct negotiation with the forces that governed life and death, where a mathematical error could literally starve a civilization. Time was never a neutral fact but a lever of power. Whoever controlled the calendar controlled reality itself, dictating when taxes were due, when armies marched, and when the gods were pleased. In Rome, this power was nakedly political. The pontifices, high priests drawn from the senatorial elite, held the exclusive right to declare the intercalary month Mercedonius. This was not an astronomical duty but a political weapon. By adding days to a year, they could extend the term of a friendly consul, granting him more time to secure military glory or pass favorable laws. By shortening a year, they could truncate the influence of a rival. The calendar became a private tool for factional advantage, a way to literally manufacture time for one's allies and steal it from one's enemies. This manipulation grew so corrupt that by the time of Julius Caesar, the civic year was months out of sync with the seasons, a chaos that demanded his drastic solar reform. Across the world, in China, the calendar was the ultimate symbol of imperial legitimacy, the mandate of heaven made manifest. Each new dynasty, upon claiming power, would issue its own official calendar. This was not a minor administrative update. It was a profound declaration that the emperor, the son of heaven, possessed the unique virtue and authority to correctly interpret the celestial movements and harmonize human society with the cosmic order. To accept the imperial calendar was to acknowledge the dynasty's right to rule. Neighboring states receiving the Chinese calendar as a gift were performing an act of submission, integrating themselves into the Chinese world order. The calendar dictated the rhythm of state rituals, agricultural cycles, and even the timing of celestial omens, making the emperor the sole mediator between heaven and earth. This concept of calendrical authority finds a stone embodiment in the Aztec sun stone. More than an artistic marvel, it was a monumental piece of state propaganda. Its intricate carvings presented the official Aztec cosmology, the 5 suns, the sacred 260-day count, and the 52-year cycle, all radiating from the central, demanding face of the sun god Tanatia. By publicly displaying this cosmic map, the Aztec state asserted its exclusive role as the keeper of time and the performer of the blood sacrifices necessary to keep the sun moving. It visually argued that the empire's brutal dominance was not mere conquest, but a sacred, necessary duty to maintain the universe itself. The most successful fusion of scientific correction and political assertion came centuries later with the Gregorian reform. By the late 1500s, the Julian calendar's slight overcorrection had accumulated a 10-day error, causing the spring equinox to drift earlier and threatening the accurate calculation of Easter. Pope Gregory XIII convened a commission of astronomers who devised a more precise leap year rule. To reset the clock, they simply deleted 10 days from October 1582. This was a brilliant scientific fix, but it was also a stunning display of papal authority. With a single decree, the Pope erased 10 days of time for much of the Catholic world. Protestant nations, resisting this papal power, refused to adopt the change for decades or even centuries, leading to the curious historical situation where travelers could lose or gain 10 days crossing a religious border. The reform was a reminder that even the measurement of objective celestial motion was filtered through the lens of earthly authority. Perhaps the most radical attempt to wield the calendar as a tool for social engineering erupted during the French Revolution. In 1793, revolutionaries sought to obliterate all traces of the ancient regime, including its Christian frame of time. They introduced the French Republican calendar. It declared a new year one starting from the founding of the French Republic. The 10-day week, the decade, replaced the 7-day week, aiming to destroy the traditional Sabbath and reduce church influence. Months were renamed after natural phenomena, like Brumaire for fog or Thermidor for heat. Every day was dedicated to a plant, animal, or tool, celebrating agrarian and artisanal virtue over royal and religious saints. This was time completely reimagined, a conscious construct designed to forge a new citizen, one whose mental rhythms were divorced from the past and aligned with the rational, secular ideals of the new state. Its ultimate failure, abandoned after about 12 years, proves how deeply embedded traditional time structures are in the human psyche. Yet its brief existence stands as the purest testament to a timeless truth that calendars are never just about counting days. They are narratives of power, scripts that tell a people who they are, who rules them, and what gods or principles they must serve. To control time is to author the story of reality. The ultimate test of any cosmic clock was not marking a harvest, but foretelling a moment of divine terror. A lunar eclipse with the familiar silver disk slowly swallowed by a coppery shadow was an event that could freeze the heart of any civilization. To predict it was to demonstrate a mastery over the very fears of the gods, and the ancient world's most advanced calendars rose to this chilling challenge. The Babylonians, those meticulous accountants of the sky, left us the first evidence of this triumph. Over centuries, their temple scribes recorded every eclipse they witnessed on countless clay tablets. By poring over these archives, they noticed a stunning pattern. A lunar eclipse would recur in a similar form approximately every 18 years and 11 days. They called this period the Saros cycle. It is not a perfect alignment, but a near one, based on the intricate dance of the moon's orbital nodes. They could not explain the geometry of shadows cast in space, but through relentless data collection, they learned to sound the alarm. If an eclipse occurred, they knew another was likely 18 years later, give or take a few hours and with a slight shift in visibility. This allowed the king and priests to prepare to perform the necessary rituals to soothe the angry gods they believed were attacking the moon. Their calendar, interwoven with these eclipse tables, transformed from a simple scheduler into a predictive instrument of state security. Half a world away, the Maya were conducting their own celestial forensics. In the Dresden Codex, one of the few surviving Maya bark paper books, we find a haunting table. It charts the cycles of the moon, but it is punctuated by ominous glyphs depicting a serpent devouring a celestial symbol. This is almost certainly an eclipse table. The Maya saw eclipses as dangerous events, moments when the cosmic balance was threatened, often associated with the malevolent whims of deities. Their long count calendar, with its precise tracking of days across vast epochs, provided the perfect framework for this work. By observing eclipses and logging their dates within their intricate system of tons, catons, and bactons, their astronomer priests could search for patterns. They likely understood cycles similar to the Saros, using the mathematical relationships between their various calendar rounds to forecast when the sun, moon, and earth would once again align in shadow. For them, an eclipse prediction was not just a scientific feat. It was a vital act of protection, allowing communities to brace for potential misfortune and conduct the ceremonies needed to restore harmony. In China, eclipse prediction was a matter of imperial survival. The emperor ruled by the mandate of heaven, and a poorly predicted eclipse was a catastrophic sign that he had lost the cosmic connection. Chinese astronomers employed the Metonic cycle, that 19-year alignment of sun and moon, as a foundational tool in their lunisolar calculations. But they went far beyond. From the Shang dynasty onward, they kept impeccable records, noting the exact time, duration, and appearance of each eclipse. The Book of Songs, dating back over 2,500 years, contains a likely reference to a total solar eclipse. These events were dire omens, interpreted as warnings from heaven about misrule. A sudden eclipse could mean the emperor needed to examine his policies, show humility, or dismiss corrupt advisors. Therefore, the Imperial Astronomical Bureau had a solemn, high-stakes duty. Using armillary spheres and complex mathematical formulas refined over generations, they worked to forecast eclipses with ever greater accuracy. A successful prediction proved the dynasty's virtue and technical prowess. A failure could spark panic and rebellion. Their calendar, therefore, had to be a dynamic computational model, constantly refined by observation, because a mistake in the sky could lead to chaos on the ground. This global drive to conquer eclipse fear reveals the true zenith of ancient timekeeping. A simple calendar marks what is. A predictive calendar foretells what will be. To achieve this, Babylonian scribes, Maya priests, and Chinese astronomers all followed the same arduous path. It required patient, unbroken observation across centuries, a legacy of data passed from one generation to the next. It demanded the invention of sophisticated mathematics to discern the hidden rhythms in that data, and it necessitated a philosophical leap to see the cosmos not as a realm of capricious gods acting at random, but as a system of interlocking gears whose motions could be decoded. When a priest announced an eclipse would darken the moon on a specific night, and the shadow indeed began to creep across its face, it was a moment of profound human power. It meant their calendar was no longer just a map of time, it was a working model of the universe itself. They had built a cognitive tool so advanced it could peer into the future and snatch a terrifying celestial event from the realm of mystery, placing it neatly on a calculated timeline. In that moment, the abstract mathematics of their stone pillars and bark paper books reached out and touched the real, moving heavens. But for every calendar we can reconstruct, a dozen more whisper to us from fragments, their full logic forever silent. These are the ghost calendars, systems we know existed only through maddening glimpses, their secrets locked in undeciphered scripts or buried beneath millennia of soil. Consider the vast, sophisticated Indus Valley civilization. We have excavated their meticulously planned cities, their standardized bricks, and their astonishingly uniform system of weights. Such a society, thriving for centuries across a subcontinent, must have tracked time to coordinate harvests, floods, and trade. Yet their elegant script, etched on seals and tablets, remains one of the world's great linguistic puzzles. Without the key to their writing, any calendar they used is pure speculation. Did they use a lunisolar system like their neighbors? Did they track the star Sirius as the Egyptians did? Their silence is a profound reminder of how much knowledge can vanish, leaving only the architecture of a society that clearly measured its world with precision, but left no manual behind. Then there are objects that defy all categorization, like the Phaistos disk. Unearthed on Crete, this fired clay disk dates to the 2nd millennium before Common Era. Its entire surface is covered on both sides with a continuous spiral of stamped symbols, everything from human heads and shields to bees and ships. The symbols are not drawn, but pressed into the clay with individual seals, making it one of the earliest examples of movable type. But what does it say? Is it a hymn, a legal document, or, as some scholars have theorized, a ritual calendar? The spiral could represent a cycle of time, with each symbol marking a day or a festival in a sacred Minoan year. We see similar spiral motifs in later cultures associated with cosmic cycles. Yet without any other example or a bilingual text, the disk is an isolated enigma. It sits in a museum case, a complete sentence from a lost language, speaking a secret of time we may never learn. Sometimes the calendar leaves no writing at all, only a pattern in the earth. At Warren Field in Scotland, archaeologists uncovered a series of 12 large pits, deliberately dug around 10,000 years ago, long before Stonehenge. These pits are aligned in an arc, and their positions seem to correspond with the phases of the moon. The theory is stunning that Mesolithic hunter-gatherers used this structure to track lunar months, perhaps to follow the migration patterns of animals or to mark important seasonal gatherings. It is a prehistoric almanac, a calendar built not with ink or stone, but with holes in the ground, designed by people gazing at the same sky with the same need to predict and plan. It suggests the drive to formalize time is far older than civilization itself, rooted in the deep human past. These fragments force a humbling admission. Our list of 30, as expansive as it is undoubtedly incomplete. For every Maya with their long count, there were likely 10 other cultures who developed their own intricate systems that left no durable trace. Imagine the oral calendars of nomadic peoples passed down through song and story, perfectly adapted to the rhythms of the tundra or the desert, lost when the last keeper of the tradition passed away. Think of island cultures whose wooden calendar sticks rotted in the tropics, or empires whose libraries, filled with astronomical tables, were burned to ashes by conquest. The history of timekeeping is a palace with most of its rooms collapsed, and we are left marveling at the few grand, surviving halls. These ghost calendars remind us that our modern, globalized time is just one thread in a tapestry, most of which has already frayed away, leaving only tantalizing, unanswered questions in the dust. The ghosts of those lost calendars are not truly gone, for their logic lives on in the very seconds we count today. Our modern, globalized time is a palimpsest, a document written over countless ancient systems, with their most brilliant innovations still visible beneath the surface. Take the very rhythm of our week. That relentless cycle of 7 days finds its origin not in nature, but in the stargazing priests of Babylon. They assigned each day to one of the 7 celestial bodies they could see moving against the fixed stars, the sun, the moon, and the 5 visible planets. This sacred, repeating rhythm was a purely human invention, a way to impose a divine order on the flow of days, and it was so powerful it traveled across empires, adopted by Greeks and Romans, until its planetary names were etched into languages worldwide. Our 60-minute hour and 60-second minute are also Babylonian gifts, born from their sexagesimal number system based on the number 60. A system they likely chose for its mathematical elegance, as it is easily divisible by so many numbers. That same base 60 system gave us the 360-degree circle, a convention that allowed ancient astronomers to map the heavens, and that still defines every compass bearing and every architect's plan. These are not minor details, they are the fundamental scaffolding of our daily reality, inherited directly from clay tablets written under Mesopotamian skies. The framework of our year is an equally layered artifact. The sturdy backbone of the Julian calendar, with its 12 months and leap year rule, was the gift of Julius Caesar and his Alexandrian astronomer Sosigenes. It brought solar stability to the Western world for over 16 centuries, but that calendar contained a tiny, accumulating flaw. It overestimated the solar year by about 11 minutes. Those minutes added up, and by the 1500s the spring equinox had drifted 10 days from its proper place, threatening the calculation of Easter. The solution was another great reform, this time under Pope Gregory XIII. His commission of astronomers devised a more precise rule. Leap years occur every 4 years except in century years not divisible by 400. So the year 2000 was a leap year, but the year 1900 was not. To reset the clock, they simply declared that October 4th, 1582 would be followed by October 15th. 10 days vanished by papal decree, and the Gregorian calendar was born. This is the system most of the world uses today, a direct descendant of Roman power and medieval astronomy, finely tuned to keep our dates aligned with the seasons for millennia to come. Yet not all ancient time lives in our phones and planners. Some of it lives in the soil. Across East Asia, the traditional Chinese 24 solar terms, those 15-day slices of the sun's journey, never disappeared. While official business runs on the Gregorian calendar, farmers from Korea to Vietnam still consult these terms with names like grain rain, lesser fullness, and great cold. They are a pure solar almanac embedded in a modern world, telling a rice farmer exactly when to transplant seedlings or warning an orchard keeper of an impending frost. This is ancient wisdom operating in real time, a testament to a system so perfectly married to the land that it remains indispensable. The ancient quest for perfect order did not end with the Gregorian reform, it merely changed its tools. Our struggle to define the second is the ultimate extension of this story. For millennia, a second was a simple fraction, 1/60th of a minute, which was 1/60th of an hour, which was 1/24th of a day. But the Earth's rotation is imperfect, it wobbles and slows. So in the 1960s, science moved the standard from the heavens to the atom. A second is now defined as the time it takes for a cesium-133 atom to oscillate exactly 9,192,631,770 times. This is timekeeping divorced from the cosmos, anchored in a universal subatomic vibration. And what of leap seconds? Occasionally, an extra second is added to coordinated universal time to account for the Earth's slowing spin. A direct modern echo of the Babylonian intercalary month or the Aztec 52-year cycle correction. We are still doing what every ancient priest did, watching a natural cycle, noticing a drift, and inserting a unit of time to fix it. Even time zones, which slice the globe into neat longitudinal strips, are a solution to an ancient problem made global: the need to synchronize human activity across vast distances under a single sun. So when you glance at a digital clock or mark a date in your calendar, you are not just checking the time, you are reading the cumulative genius of history. You are seeing the Babylonian week, the Roman month, the Egyptian solar year, and the Chinese agricultural term, all distilled and synchronized by atomic clocks and satellite networks. The ancient drive to find order in the sky, to predict the flood and placate the gods, has evolved into the invisible grid that allows a global stock market to open, a satellite to navigate, and a video call to connect continents. Their stone circles and clay tablets were the first attempts to build a model of the universe, and our network of atomic clocks and internet time servers is the latest, most precise iteration of that same eternal project. We are still building calendars, we are just using different tools to answer the same urgent human question: what time is it in the grand turning scheme of things? So we arrive at the central question: what do we mean by more complex? It is not about being more convenient or easier to read on a screen. Complexity here is a measure of density, of how many layers of reality a single system could hold. Our modern Gregorian calendar is a marvel of global synchronization, a streamlined tool for commerce and communication. It tracks one thing, the solar year, with elegant mechanical precision. But place it beside the Maya's interlocking gears of the Tzolk'in, the Hob, and the long count, and it appears starkly simple, even thin. Ancient complexity meant weaving multiple celestial rhythms into one coherent code. A calendar was not just a solar tracker, it was also a lunar observatory, a manual for planting, a schedule for the gods, and a book of fate. It had to answer not only when to harvest, but whether today was auspicious for a wedding, which deity required a sacrifice this evening, and what cosmic age was currently unfolding. This required mathematics that could reconcile the incommensurate cycles of the sun and moon, astronomy precise enough to predict an eclipse centuries hence, and a philosophical framework that saw time as a living, sacred substance. The Aztec tonal Pohuale assigned one of 20-day signs and a number from 1 to 13 to create 260 unique combinations, each with its own spiritual charge. That is not a farmer's almanac, it is a daily horoscope woven into the fabric of the state. The Chinese system embedded a pure solar calendar of 24 terms within a lunisolar month structure, while also running a 60-year astrological cycle on top. Each of these layers served a different master: the emperor, the farmer, the priest, and the astrologer, all from the same set of calculations. Our calendar separates time from meaning. We have workdays and weekends, holidays and business quarters. These are social and economic categories, but they carry no inherent cosmic weight. A Tuesday is just Tuesday. In contrast, a day in the Babylonian calendar was governed by a specific planet and its god, making it inherently lucky or unlucky for certain actions. A day in the Hindu calendar is defined by its thai, a lunar phase angle, and its nakshatra, the moon's mansion among the stars, giving it a qualitative energy that dictates rituals. The complexity was functional, yes, but it was also deeply existential. These systems were cosmology written as a schedule. They explained why the world worked, why kings ruled, and why the sun returned, all through the relentless turning of numbered days. They provided a complete map of reality, where every moment was connected to a grand, intelligible pattern. Our modern time gives us coordination, but often at the cost of that deeper connection. We know the exact minute a meeting starts anywhere on Earth, but we have largely lost the sense that a particular day holds a unique place in a sacred order. The ancient calendars remind us that time was once not just something we measured, but something we lived within, a rich, multi-layered dialogue between the earth, the sky, and the human soul. Their complexity was not a flaw, but a testament to the depth of their inquiry, an attempt to find a harmonious place for humanity within the vast, ticking machinery of the universe. This universal impulse to mark time did not stop at the edge of the known world. Our final stop is the most isolated inhabited island on the planet, a speck of volcanic rock in the vast emptiness of the Pacific. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, presents a haunting mystery. Its people, who navigated thousands of miles of open ocean to settle there, also brought with them a deep need to read the sky and structure their year, though their calendar system whispers to us only through fragments. Without a deciphered written script, we must piece together their sense of time from oral tradition, stone alignments, and the silent, imposing faces of the moe. The island's ceremonial platforms, called ahu, are not randomly placed. Many are precisely oriented. Certain ahu align with the rising or setting sun at the solstices, the longest and shortest days of the year. The most famous ahu, at the site called Tongariki with its 15 towering moe, is positioned so that on the summer solstice, the sun rises directly behind the statues, bathing them in a dramatic backlight. This was likely intentional, a way to use the most powerful day of the sun to illuminate and perhaps spiritually activate the ancestors represented by the stone figures. The moe themselves, those colossal giants with their inscrutable stares, almost all face inland, looking over the clan territories, but they stand with their backs to the sea, positioned to catch the first rays of the rising sun. Each dawn, light would sweep across the platforms, touching the stone faces in a daily ritual of renewal, a physical connection between the living community, their deified ancestors, and the life-giving sun. This solar alignment suggests a calendar rooted in observation, marking the pivotal turning points of the year with communal ceremony at these sacred sites. A later, more dynamic tradition hints at a different kind of annual cycle. In the centuries after the Moe culture declined, a new ritual center emerged at Orongo, a village perched on the rim of a volcanic crater. Here, the Tangata Monu, or birdman cult, took hold. Each year, around the southern hemisphere spring, representatives from different island clans would compete in a perilous race. Competitors would descend the sheer cliff face, swim through shark-infested waters to a small offshore islet, and wait for the sooty tern to lay its first egg. The man who secured that egg and swam back safely would have his clan leader declared the birdman, a sacred figure who held political and religious authority for the coming year. This was not a random game. It was almost certainly tied to a seasonal calendar, timed to the migratory patterns of the birds and the fertility of the land. The winner's rule lasted one cycle until the birds returned and the competition was held again. This annual reset of power, dictated by nature's clock, functioned as a living, breathing political calendar, ensuring leadership rotated in rhythm with the natural world. While we lack the detailed tables of the Maya or the coded inscriptions of the Coligny calendar, Rapa Nui's legacy is no less profound. On this tiny, remote island, a people who had pushed the limits of human exploration also felt the fundamental need to impose order on time. They used the horizon as their dial and the sun as their hand, building monumental stone witnesses to mark its passage. Their story brings our global journey to a powerful close. From the bustling markets of Babylon to the silent plains of Easter Island, every culture we have met, no matter how isolated or advanced, looked up at the same sky and asked the same question. They all sought to carve meaning from the movement of lights to find their place in the Great Turning. Their calendars were maps of that search, built from stone, mathematics, and myth. They remind us that our own neat grid of dates is just the latest chapter in a very long, very human story of watching the heavens and trying to understand our moment within them. The sheer diversity of these 30 systems is a testament to the boundless ingenuity of the human mind. We have journeyed from stone computers that predicted solstices to mathematical cycles that tracked Venus across millennia, from lunar months named for barley harvests to sacred counts woven from the very span of human gestation. Each calendar was a unique answer to a universal question, shaped by the land, the gods, and the stars its creators watched. These were not the crude scratchings of primitive peoples, but the masterworks of brilliant observers, philosophers, and engineers who saw the cosmos as a grand, intelligible machine and dedicated their lives to decoding its gears. They proved that ancient civilizations possessed a sophisticated scientific and spiritual intelligence we are only now fully appreciating. Our modern, globally synchronized time, with its uniform grid of time zones and atomic seconds, is a marvel of convenience. Yet it is a streamlined, simplified version of reality, built upon a foundation laid by these complex, layered discoveries. It is the final product of that ancient, relentless project to find order in the heavens. So here is a question for you. If you could step outside our standardized schedule and live by the rhythm of one of these ancient calendars, which would you choose? Would you follow the Maya-long count, thinking in cycles of backtons and catons? Would you mark your days by the Aztec tonal Pohueli, navigating a world of daily omens? Or would you anchor your year to the Persian equinox, your life timed to the second of the sun's balance? Let us know in the comments below which system captured your imagination and why. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of measured time, subscribe for more explorations into the hidden logic of history. And the next time you glance at a clock or a calendar on your screen, take a moment to look past it, up at the sky. See it not as empty space, but as the original clock face, etched with the stories of every culture that ever was. Each one trying to leave their mark on eternity, one carefully counted day at a time.